So in this panel, we are going to start with the Brazilian participation at CERN. And we are going to have connecting remotely Mr. Carlos Matsumoto, which is the head of international cooperations for the Ministry of Science of Brazil, and Rafael Navarro, who serves as the industrial liaison officer of Brazil at CERN. Also present here in person will be Antonio José Roque, the general director of CNPEN, and also Inácio Bediaga, from president of RENAFAI, and also coordinator of the INCT CERN project in Brazil. So the idea is that for the panels, each panelist is going to give a 10-minute introduction to the topic, and then we are going to follow with 20 minutes discussion and questions from the audience. Since we have a presentation from Zé Roque and Ignacio, and the Carlos and Rafael are connecting remotely, I think you can still sit here for the moment, and then we move to the front for the discussion. So the first one is Carlos Matsumoto. So please, Carlos, thank you very much for your availability, and it's a pleasure to hear you speaking about the process of association of Brazil to CERN. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ulisses, and thank you, CLAF and CERN, for the invitation. Yes, I'm now, as you may know, I'm covering Professor Galvão, that's supposed to speak in this session, but we understand that he's now a very busy person due to his responsibility in the Chamber of Deputies. And yes, the idea here is to. I also would like to say hello to my colleagues from of this panel, Rafael, Zé Roque, and Inácio. We have a lot of interactions due to our activities, international cooperation between ministry, of course, and the research community. And what I'm supposed to do here is just explain a little bit the process, the procedures that we did for the accession to CERN as associate member. And I was able to participate in a big part of this process. I'm here in the Office for International Affairs at the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation since 2013. So when I start my work here, the ministry, the CERN NMCTI dialogue for the accession process was already started. And I remember that for several times we had the chance to talk with CBPF and RENAFAI, with Scheller at that time, and also other researchers. But it was not an easy way. It was several moments of back and forth, and maybe this experience is also interesting to you to hear. But the idea to become associate members, such as associate member of CERN, started, of course, because we had, since the beginning of the creation of CERN, the participation of Brazilian researchers in the experiment. So since the 50s, and then I think in the 80s and in 1990, we have a more structured collaboration here from the ministry through CNPq. We signed some cooperation agreements. The first one, I think, in 1990, and then it was renewed for some times. And we of course have a very good participation in CERN experiments. I have some data here from 2022. I don't know if it's updated, but with information that 132 Brazilian researchers with Brazilian nationality used CERN's infrastructure to develop their studies. And this number is higher than some of full members. And I think maybe the biggest among the associate member states. So in 2010, of course, as you know, CERN expanded the possibility for non-European countries to become associate members. And with this possibility, and considering, of course, the historical volume of cooperation with CERN, working group was created in 2010 by our former minister, Sérgio Rezende, to study the possibility of Brazil becoming an associate member. And as a result of this working group, it was signed a declaration of intent between CERN and MCTI, in which Brazil showed the willingness to join as associate member. And following this signature, the accession process continued through a creation of a task force from CERN in 2012, and to analyze the Brazilian application to the organization. And we received in 2014 the draft of the accession agreement, and it was initially approved by MCTI. But between 2014 and 2019, we have a gap there that the accession process was stopped, and it was blocked for 5 years. And I will mention this because the main constraints, and in the Brazilian case, of course, it was never a merit or a technical constraint. It was always a problem of finance and how to fund the Brazilian participation. Of course, there are priorities, and of course, this administration was very keen to finalize and conclude the accession agreement. But I must say that the previous administration, that the ministry who signed the agreement in 2022 was also very active in relaunch the negotiations and to sign the agreement. So this was an endeavor that involved different governments, and maybe this is something very important to mention to this, because to become a member in an international organization, this must be a policy of state, not a foreign policy of a specific government. And in the case of CERN, that is a very important in terms of scientific and technological aspect. This is a main aspect that we should take into consideration, how several governments in different political views, they can keep this process going to achieve the conclusion of the accession procedure. So, as I mentioned, in March 2022, Brazil signed the agreement, and we sent this year, the same year, to the National Congress for approval. We have specific problems relating to our national budget law that had some modifications during that time. So we have more, we take more time to finalize, but in March 2024, we concluded with the ratification of the protocol. Specifically, what we took into consideration to move forward the process. As you know, we have, as bureaucrats in each of governments, we also can support this kind of decision-making process. So what we did and took to, of course, with scientific community, CERN users, companies, CNI was a very good partner in this specific case. We took some a list of benefits for the accession, in the way that the senior officials could understand the importance, not take this decision to President and to the Congress. So in the list that we took to the minister, is, of course, the most important one, and I think Rafael will be able to talk more about this. It was the possibility to participate in the procurement process and the opportunity for national industries to provide technological products and services to CERN. So this is something that was very appealing for the government to participate, since in the experiments our scientific community already had the participation in several decades ago. So this was a very important point. Of course, we had to make we have also the access to specific jobs and training of skilled national workforce. We are working in this sense right now to take more people from Brazil to work in CERN as in engineers, researchers, scientists, but also technical people for medium-term positions and internships in CERN. The cooperation with Sirius and CNPq, I think Zehok will mention specific this point, so I'm not taking to these details, but it's something that for us it would be an opportunity to how integrate and make more synergies between our biggest facility to CERN. They have different purpose, but the idea of the engineer part would be very benefited for this interaction as Brazil in the situation of associate member. Of course, we took it also into consideration the topics of advanced material and strategic minerals. Back then, it was not like what we are seeing now in the international scenario, the importance that strategic minerals have right now, but it was something that we took into consideration. Also, a knowledge transfer in various areas of science, technology, innovation, and also the participation of Brazil in shaping the global scientific agenda. I think CERN provides us this aspect that Brazil, in terms of the role that Brazil wants to play as a scientific international player, this would be very important as well. And other two topics related to specific programs of CERN in terms of entrepreneurship and how we can work with startups and companies that are spillovers of CERN activities, and the popularization and dissemination of science. So as I mentioned to you, the biggest constraints that we had in this long process was due to the contribution, because as you know, Brazil participates in several international organizations. This is a specific one. It's not like UN contribution, but has, because it has, of course, a very pragmatic part of the association, but also it's the resources come from the same pot. So it's an internal discussion to elaborate the budget in order to include this kind of contribution, but something that we were able to discuss with Congress and executive, and also with the partners outside governments, to show the importance to do that. And of course, the possibility to have this status of associated member, not a full member, that we just pay a part of the full membership, also helped us a lot in convince internally to move on. And just to finalize, just to inform that the idea to become a member of CERN, it is, in this government, it's a part of a bigger strategy that we have to strengthen national research infrastructure. We have a program here, it's called ProInfra, that is due to the national funds that now we have through FNDCT, that's the main national fund for science, technology, innovation. we're able to recover and expand national infrastructure, but also in international cooperation to access international research infrastructure and participation in larger international experiments. So we have for example, United Kingdom, we will launch Amazon Face. It's a big infrastructure in the heart of Amazon forest for climate change studies. We have the Atto Tower with Germany, also in Amazon. We are building the Brazilian multipurpose reactor with Argentina. I think maybe Zé Roque could talk about this. We are investing in the Orion, is the biosafety lab in level 4. That's also related to the Sirius line beam expansion. And for the Orion, have several international partnerships, including Germany, I think US, and we also with China are building now our first geo satellite. It's a meteorological one, the first one that Brazil will develop. It's a CBERS 5 geostationary satellite. We are funding Unicamp in experiment in June with the US, and we became also a member of Eureka, the largest innovation research innovation network with European countries, but also Canada, South Africa, South Korea, and so on. So this is a national effort to have more access to bigger experiments and internationally, and also provide conditions in terms of infrastructure to our researchers. So I think that's it. Thank you very much. We cannot hear you. If you're talking, Ulysses, we cannot hear you.
Yes, my microphone was off. So thanks a lot, Carlos. And I would now like to invite José Roque to talk about CNPEN. And apresentação do Antônio José Roque na tela, por favor. Isso.
Okay, good morning. Thank you very much for the invitation, Ulysses. It's good to see a lot of old friends here, especially Salvatore. He was at CNPEN in 2019, and I think from then on, we have only increased our, let's say, collaboration. So I'll talk a little bit about CNPEN and how CNPEN got involved. Is the big black one, no? Okay. So this is CNPEN. CNPEN has many more activities besides what we're talking about. So we have biosciences, biorenewables. We have a nanotechnology lab. We have the traditional synchrotron light source. I'll talk a bit more about it. And we have, that's why I highlighted over there, the engineering instrumentation lab, which is mostly connected to the discussion here. CNPEN is connected to, and we have a faculty also, ILUM. We have started a few years ago. We are connected to the Ministry of Science and Technology and Innovation, just like CBPF, but in a different management model. They are directly connected to the government, and we are a private non-profit organization that signs a contract with the Ministry of Science and Technology to do everything we do here. So what is called in Brazil, Organização Social. So all our employees are CLT, so it's the private way of hiring people here in Brazil. We have close to 1,250 employees, and if you count students, trainees, and outsourced personnel, we are close to 2,000 people. So it's a big increase from the time when I got there in 2009. I think we're close to 300 people. So, and it's interesting because everything started here at CBPF. I was talking to Marcio. So the first discussions about building a synchrotron in Brazil, the discussions were done here. Roberto Lobo was the director. He was visiting us 1 week ago, and we're talking about this very early days. But then eventually it went to Campinas, and I think it was a very important turning point in the Brazilian science because Of course, big facilities or big science was mentioned this morning. When you talked about CERN, you can talk about the same size, but in a sense, you can say it's a big science project. So it was a very pioneering lab. An important thing is that instead of buying an accelerator, the whole idea was to learn how to develop. It's something that CBPF also always tries to do with all the research and development done here. So important people here that were involved, Silon, Ricardo Rodrigues, and Aldo Krajewicz. I think Aldo even spent some time here. Unfortunately, Ricardo and Aldo passed away recently, but Silon was also visiting us last week. So training human resources was fundamental and learning how to actually do instrumentation. So the whole idea is to learn how to do the project, but not only the project and buying from abroad. So the idea was to do the project and learn how to produce. Back then, you didn't really have the chance to involve or engage Brazilian companies. Those were very difficult times for those who have lived inflation of, I don't even know how many percent a month. So it was very difficult to actually do any and sign any contract with companies. So the whole idea was to actually produce internally. This was important also to learn how to produce. This is the old accelerator. And then it operated for many decades. But it was not a competitive machine. It was very important to learn. It was very important to actually develop a community of users and to acquire the knowledge to how to develop, but it was not a competitive machine. And then the idea was to build a new light source. Initially, it was going to be a third generation light source, similar to most of the good accelerators all over the world. But eventually, I would say a bold, maybe crazy move that today was, in hindsight, very important, was to move to a new technology that was not yet working in the world, that was called so-called fourth generation light source. So we had to develop and invent many of the, let's say, solutions. This is the real accelerator over there. So we just passed through the LINAC, goes all the way to 150 million electron volts. And then you go to the booster, it ramps up to 3 GeV, and then transfers to the storage ring. Is a roughly half a kilometer storage ring. And we divide it in 20 centers. Then you deviate the trajectory of the electrons to generate the light, the synchrotron light. You collect them on the tangent, on the so-called beam lines, and then you go out of the concrete tunnel to where the experiments, the usage of the synchrotron is actually done. So the accelerator is the source of let's say, of the science done over there. So it's not so you don't use directly as a collider the accelerator. So when we had to develop a lot of technology, some of them are patented, and especially I'll talk more about magnets, but it goes to all the way to X-ray detectors, monochromators that are unique in the world. And these delta undulators also you can't install in any place, and we have it installed on Sirius. And this was the first agreement since I was over there. CERN has been important in this history. I won't have time to talk about it. But because we needed to use this NEG coating, it was a proprietary technology of CERN, so I had to sign an agreement, and CERN let us use. That's why you had to also produce all the vacuum chambers in-house. But we did this, and today we have a strong group in vacuum chambers. Then it was strategic to actually connect to the Brazilian companies. It was discussed this morning, for example, that Portugal made the effort. It was clear to us that we had to make this effort for two reasons. First, it would be very difficult to produce everything in-house. For example, now we were talking about 1,000 magnets. It would be complicated to actually produce it in-house. But we didn't want to import. We wanted to engage Brazilian companies because strategically this would be fundamental for the survival and continuation of the project. And we have been successful. I won't have time also to actually talk about all the strategies, but more than 80% of all the money we spent were spent in Brazil. It was a huge nationalization. I think probably one of the biggest in such kind of projects in the world. We have dozens of companies from small startups in the case of detectors, all the way to big companies like WEG. So I'll focus on magnets because this is important for the future, I would say, especially the future connected to CERN. As I said, we developed the technology, we built the magnets in-house for the first synchrotron, but for Sirius, the large number required that somehow we would find a partner. And of course, you don't have any company that produces magnets, accelerator magnets. But a magnet's not so different from an electromotor. That's what WEG does and does competitively worldwide. So I think today is the #1 seller of electromotors in the world. So it took us a lot of, let's say, energy to actually engage WEG. Today, we're strong partners in many different areas. We had about 1,000 electromagnets divided into dipoles, quadrupoles, etc. And the success case was to engage WEG in this project. They initially thought it would be very simple because 1,000 for them is ridiculous in terms of number. So they thought maybe in half a year they would finish everything. It took more than 4 years because they had to learn to actually produce things with the requirements, technical requirements. Was an extremely interesting experience. So we had to develop a special way of interacting with them. So the design was ours because they were not going to hire people to actually learn to design magnets for accelerators. And we had a partnership where prototype and pilot bench, if successful, would lead to us signing a contract for serial batch and then eventually validation. It was extremely successful. They was the very first project in the whole history of WEG where they actually built climate, let's say, stabilized assembly line for the magnets. But not only the magnets is the biggest story, I would say. But for example, if you look at the girder, let's say the concrete supports, the resin that attaches this to the ground, all of this required a lot of interaction and innovation with different kinds of companies, and we're successful in that, and would be, for example, ready to have this fabricated to other projects, because now we have the companies here in Brazil. So CERN cooperation and opportunities. It's important to highlight CNPq is not a high energy physics. This is a high energy physics meeting. CNPq interacts with the community through the competence it developed throughout the decades in accelerator technology and innovation. But you don't have high energy physicists, and we are not planning to have accelerator engine, let's say, high energy physicists. And we interact with neutrino people as well. We have, we're going to fabricate some of the detectors for Ettore over there. But we are not interested in neutrino physics. So that's important for possible cooperations in the future, understanding the role that CNPq might have within the community. But we have many similar things to CERN, especially if you look at an accelerator, special accelerator, not only, but special accelerators, you have a lot of components that are similar to the components that we need to actually learn and build to actually make our accelerator work. So this actually made total sense for us to get closer. And we decided to sign an agreement in 2020. I'm better in this picture, so I'm not hiding behind the agreement itself. But it was, for example, very important to us to acquire superconducting technology. I told Salvatore we knew how to build some of the best magnets, electromagnets in the world, but we didn't know how to actually build any superconducting device. And so we signed an agreement from our side. That was an important thing to actually start developing this device. I was glad to hear Salvatore saying, South of Texas, this is the first device he knows that will be installed next year, is going to be installed in Sirius. It will provide the first beam line of close to 7 Tesla, which is only possible because we have a superconducting magnet. And we also wanted to move towards proton accelerators. We want to learn this technology and initially connect it to health, but learn how to actually build a proton accelerator. And it was very important in the beginning, the interaction for this RFQ. As far as I know, it's the first full cavity that was built also here, and that works. And we have accelerated protons close to 1 MeV. Now we're going to actually continue this to higher energies. And then it was, let's say, logical that CNPq would participate in a more, let's say, deeper way once Brazil became an associate member state. So the Ministry of Science and Technology asked us to actually help ILO, Rafael Navarro, who is here. Hello, Rafa. So he is actually, if you see, he signs organization CNPq because that's how we're implementing his activity. So we're already supporting. And an important thing to understand when we get involved with this is that we help to de-risk the involvement of Brazilian companies. As I said, the vast majority of the companies here in Brazil won't have dedicated people that know about accelerators. So they won't even have people to actually sit down with the guys from CERN to discuss technical issues. So it's essential that CNPq helps sort of a midfield connecting both sides. So we understand this role. We are very happy to actually have this kind of participation, and we fully support all the research work that Rafael does. So it was already mentioned, FCC is the very largest next big project, but you have HLUMI and you have, let's say, also improvements to doing some of the detectors. And because we have made the interaction, let's say, agreement with CERN, we have developed successfully some projects. We have the history of magnets. We have interaction with Brazilian companies. So people started to come to discuss the possibility of engaging CNPq on, I would say, more challenging and more projects that would be, let's say, bring more visibility to actually the development here. One of them is the discussion we've been doing with the people from ALES. We have people here participating on the discussion as well. The whole idea is to build the superconducting detector magnet. For example, this is an important also distinction. Some of the community, the scientific community, they discuss how they could participate. For example, CNPq would never be able to say the specifications of this magnet, because this requires high energy physicists. You have to decide the science and you have to decide the specifications. But we know how to, once you give the specifications, we know how to make the project of a magnet. It's an engineering problem. So I always say, don't try to do the engineering problem that we already know how to do. Do the science problem that we're never going to do. So each one will do what they do best. Sometimes they are not so happy, but I think that's the smart way to actually move on without duplicating all the efforts. So the whole idea is try to engage also Brazilian companies. There is a big challenge because let's say, they have many possibilities, but the one that they would like the most is to use these Rutherford cables. That will be today, as far as I know, in the world, you can't buy them. So we have to actually bring back some companies that could have this capability. And we have already partners that said they could actually produce this. And we might even engage WEG again, depending on how this moves. So there are still challenges for the, let's say, financial, let's say, how to actually pay for everything. But we think we're actually going to actually have a successful case here. And now we're very excited about the agreement we're going to sign today, because this is connected to something that would be produced in Brazil, a very significant part of FCC eventually. It's a 5-kilometer transfer line with magnets that are extremely similar to Sirius magnets. So we have full capability of projecting and producing in Brazil. And we're talking about 10 times more magnets than we produced for Sirius. But I think that would be wonderful to engage a Brazilian company, for example, like WEG, and a project like Sirius that allowed us to have a significant participation. We're going to start with dipoles and eventually see if we move to other. We have to show that we actually have this capability to do this, but hopefully maybe we'll be engaged in many more parts of the transfer line. That's what I would like to tell you. Thank you.
Thank you, Zé Roque. I think this was a great introduction to the kinds of things that go with an association to CERN, with a strong emphasis on the technological side. And now I'd like to invite Rafael to make his considerations on his role as ILO for Brazil.
Thank you, Ulysses. Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be with you. Unfortunately, I'm not at Rio today, so I'm here. In fact, I'm at CERN. We have today a visit from a Brazilian company, and that's the reason I'm here today and I'm not with you. I would like to start thanking the full support of Carlos Matsumoto, and it's also an honor to be in this panel with you, Matsumoto. Thank you for your full support. And also Zé Roque and CNPEM team, full support. It's been a very interesting and an amazing journey so far. I will try to cover some topics that were not mentioned by Carlos and Zé Roque, and more connected with the challenges regarding the industry in Brazil. So I think we have, let's say, the advantage of starting with what Zé Roque mentioned. So we built Sirius, 85% of Sirius, and we start from a good position. And CNPEM, it's being a partner on the identification of potential suppliers for CERN, helping me on that topic in a daily basis. So we have a daily basis work. Of course, we have the challenge of, I think we have a challenge, we still have a challenge, and we are working on that. Last week, we had an event with FINEP, because it's very important to bring the awareness for the Brazilian industry, what CERN is. And of course, the opposite, it's also true. So CERN does not know the capabilities, the knowledge of the Brazilian industry. So that's also that's why it's also so important to have some companies here as well. So and we are working on that. We've been doing some events to give visibility for the Brazilian industry, and of course this is something very important. We may say that we have, let's say, this short-term agenda where we went to every bid that it's possible and invite Brazilian companies. So far, Brazilian companies were invited. Around 100 invitations were done. We participated more closely in some bids. So far, we have 2 third places, right? So, and this is important to say that it's not an easy task, right? So this is a really it's more a marathon. It's not a 100 meters run, but it's very important to let's say put all the effort. So in this case, statistics will help because it will be more company in contact with CERN and trying to let's say win as the best offer. We were working as well in a more, let's say, medium-term agenda. Zé Roque mentioned FCC potential collaboration, and we are working on that. I think this is really important for Brazil. So this we are talking about a huge opportunity for Brazil, and I believe that our other opportunities that will came up since we have this, let's say, close relationship. And mention this close relationship, I also would like to highlight and thank Salvatore for his amazing job as well, right? I think this is very important. So communication, it's very important in that topic. So let's say we have efforts from communication with the Minister of Science, Seni Payne, and also the researchers. So Inácio, that will come after me, is someone that we also talk. And I think this is also very, very important. And I'm sharing that with you, so because I know that the next panel will be a panel about Chile and CERN, right? So I think that that's something that I think it's worth it to share with you. Regarding some challenges, right, that we are facing. So the process of CERN, it's very clear, but the industry must learn. So there's a lot of documentation to be familiar with, to understand. We are competing with companies that are for decades supplying to CERN. So this is something that we must take in account. Sometimes the timing it's a challenge, right? So because until the company to understand, really understand the bid and make an offer, it takes time. So we lost some bids because of timing, and for sure the second and the third bid of the company that will participate, it to be easier, right? But the first one takes time to understand, to full comply with all the requirements and so on. It's not an easy effort, right? To go deep in details on all it's necessary. We also faced some situations regarding the certifications. So there are many Brazilian companies that export and complies more with US standards than European standards. So sometimes this is something that takes a while to understand and see how it connects. I think the procurement team from CERN, it's also very, not only the procurement team, but also the technical team are always very, let's say, available to answer the questions and to interact. In fact, they really like to interact with the company. So I can guarantee that this is something that always happens, right? And we are also working, so we're still working on bringing this awareness for the industry. And I think in the short term, we will be able to do, let's say, thematic expositions. We had the first one in electronics 2 weeks ago. Few Brazilian companies participated, but it was interesting because during FINEP's agenda last week, three more companies, in fact, reached me out to understand what was the discussion, how can they, let's say, be part of that. So again, bringing the awareness, it's a fundamental for that. So Brazil, it's a huge country, and the challenge to spread it out, it's not trivial, right? I think there's another topic which is very important. Matsumoto mentioned let's say, the possibility for CERN to hire also Brazilians, and we are also working on that agenda. So there's potentially opportunities for technicians, and we are working with Senai, but not only Senai. We are, let's say, searching for other institutions that can be interested as well. We discussed it also with Senai, a cooperation with CERN to bring technicians for the experiments, right? So we have Inácio here. So Inácio participated in 2 or 3 meetings with that. So we potentially will have technicians, Brazilian technicians, cooperating within the experiments as well. So I think it's in a let's say high level view. I can say that Ulysses, not sure. I think I'm on my time, but maybe some room for discussions, right? So thank you very much.
Thank you, Rafael, for this exposition. And now we are going to hear from Ignacio and move to a quick discussion in the end.
Outros 10 minutos. Ulisses asked me to talk only 10 minutes. So I reduced a lot the amount of things that I could say about the Brazilian community in CERN. But, well, first of all, Ulisses, thank you. And I'm very happy to see CLAF back again. So this is important institution that is placed in CBPF, and for years it doesn't work, and I can see, and I'm very happy. And thank you. So I will talk about RENAFI. RENAFI is our network, Brazilian network about the high energy physics. Basically, we have particle accelerator and high energy cosmic rays. That's basically these two. The RENAFI was founded in 2008, involving about 10 institutions, about 50 researchers, and now we increase a lot. Now we have, oh, thank you. Now we have 33 institutions from Paraná, Espírito Santo, Bahia, Minas Gerais, Rio de Janeiro, and São Paulo, of course, and also Rio Grande do Norte and Rio Grande do Sul, of course. If you look at it, we involve in 9 collaborations, 4 of them in. Cadê o? Aqui. Eu não estou me atrapalhando aqui. Esse aqui é. E o. Não, está fazendo a mesma coisa. Bom, okay. In fact, we are involved in the 4 big experiments in CERN and LHC, and also in Alpha is a little experiment, but beautiful, and in Brazil involved. We out of CERN, we are involved in the PROG, SWGU, DON is CTR. The amount of people working involved in RENAFI are 367 persons. Half of that are docent and postdoc, and 156 students from master and doctoral. It's important that the RENAFI increased a lot during this year, and now become a different one. The idea when it was created was just to increase the participation of Brazil in high energy physics. Now it's organizing this community. That's a big difference. And the RENAFI also changed a lot the structure of that. So now we have a coordination. That's Marcelo is a coordinator, general coordinator of the RENAFI now. And we spread this contribution between 4 different activities: data analysis, instrumental scientific instrumentation, computation, and scientific divulgation. From the RENAFI, we can create a INCT. INCT is a different way, form of the budget to our activity, and only involve CERN. Let me pass to, well, talking about the association to CERN. The Brazilian Association of CERN was involved by the Brazilian community since the beginning. We involved and participate in many discussions about this. The community, the scientific communicate is involved. Now, the situation is opportunity of Brazilian industry that Navarro talked about, and involve CNPEN, involve people to work in CERN, and the problem comes from the Brazilian community, scientific community. So this is a photo of the participation in when Luciana was at CERN. There's also rock, and but we have a lot of this photo of family. Many of them, and all ministers come to CERN. The community was there, and it's important. Carly. It was important, but the problem is the financial from the community. It was my point that I would like to. Mario Pimenta talked about the Portugal participation, the CERN fund, and unfortunately, when people doing the agreement between CERN and Brazil do not take in account this this participation, the community participation. That's our problem now. If you look at the money that we need in general money to reconstruction, remodeling, development the detector. It's included in the memorandum of understanding. The another contribution that the community is obliged to participate is the mantention operation experiment. This last one was a responsibility of the RENAFI. Let me talk about the money from RENAFI since the beginning, 2008. The money from RENAFI comes from the lei orçamentária lower. And every year we receive about 800,000 reais to a million reais. In 2016, we have a problem, change this amount, and we begin to receive not in a scheduled way, but unscheduled. But anyway, we receive 2016, 17, 18, 19, we receive zero. But 20, 21, 22, and 23, receive enough to pay the amount we need to pay to our collaboration. When Brazil enter at CERN, we receive zero. So that's the situation become more complicated because when we go to Brasilia and say, oh, look, we need money for manutention operation, people say, oh, we are paid to you 11 million Swiss francs. It's enough, you know? That's our drama that fortunately is changing. FAPESP enter and pay the manutention operation from the people from São Paulo. We have a nice relationship now with Andrea from the Secretary of CEP. She doesn't have money, but a good intention to collaborate. And more important, she understood our problem. And so I believe in the next year. But anyway, this is a table of all things. The situation now from RENAFI is a debt with our collaboration of 700,000 Swiss francs. That's our 5 million reais. That's our drum now, how to pay this amount. Oh, that's okay. That's all I'd like to talk.
Thank you, Inácio, for showing us how the Brazilian community is organized around CERN and the challenges that exist in participating in this experiment, even when paradoxically the involvement increases. So it's always a difficult thing. So now I would like to invite José Roque and Inácio to the chairs so that we can have a quick discussion. We are a bit late, but yes, please. Inácio, you can join us there. I think it's easier for the discussion. I know that Márcio has a very specific question to Rafael, so I'll open for Márcio first.
Thank you, Ulysses. Well, congratulations to the excellent panel, to all the panelists. And I want to ask Rafael, in a project that we are working in CBPF now, we have an expansion of CBPF in the Federal University of Rio in the Technological Park. And we have been discussing with the innovation systems of Rio de Janeiro strategy for these innovations part of relationships of CBPF. And there are many people of FIRJAN, the Federation of Industries of States of Rio de Janeiro, which represents and support the industrial sector across the state of Rio. My question is, would the ILO, the industry office of the project, be interested in holding a similar event at those you organize in FINEP, together with FIRJAN? And if so, how do you think we can mobilize the state of Rio de Janeiro, considering that Rio de Janeiro does not have many high technology industries? And then when it does, they tend to be strongly concentrated in the oil and gas sector. Thank you.
Rafael?
May I listen? May I? Okay. So thank you, Márcio, for your question and for your offer, right? Because I understood that there's an offer behind your question.
Yes.
So and yes, we can do something. We can talk. This is key, as I mentioned. So to bring the awareness for the industry, and CERN acquires and buys, let's say, high-end sophisticated things, but also by a lot of things, right? So, and I think it's worth having the discussion. And even though you identify as a not that, let's say, technological industry in here, I think it's worth doing that for sure. I think it's also important to say that let's say most of the suppliers for CERN are small and medium companies, right? So I think we have, let's say, when we talk about WEG and the magnets, we are talking in something very exceptional, right? So a huge company interested on supplying, let's say, very specific products, right? So in general, we have small and medium firms doing that. And so I think it's very good to have Firjan as a partner on bringing this awareness. And we can discuss, let's say, the best approach depending on the company's profile that you identify.
Thank you. Good. So thank you very much, Rafael, for the answer. We have a bit of a limited time, so I would like to invite if someone from the audience has a question to make, and then I would like to put a question as well that the panelists could answer together very quickly. So does anyone want to put a specific question to the panelists or a particular one of them? If there is no questions, then my question to you guys is, I mean, you explained how the things are being organized in Brazil, how the community is organizing, how the industry is trying to be engaged. What role do you see for Latin American collaboration in what Brazil is doing? Or how Brazil, in this process, can impact the development of high energy physics in Latin America? Anyone?
Thank you for the question. With Salvatore, we doing a CLEF-CERN agreement. I think this idea to collaborate with the people from another country, Latin American country, principle in the little country, it's very important because to enter in CERN alone, to participate in an experiment with 2,000, 3,000 persons alone is almost impossible. So the agreement that we and Salvatore, I and Salvatore think is just to increase the relationship between people from Latin America, not for Chile, because Chile is now is a big, or Mexico, big, but for example, Honduras, we have an agreement with Honduras. Melissa is now in Honduras working. By the way, this week it's almost become associate to CBPF to participate in LHCb. So the idea is to increase this collaboration with Chile and Mexico also, of course, but in another level. But I think the CLAF, the idea to this agreement is to take money from the European community, even Brazilian industry, to increase the relationship between these people. And it is very important for people on this small country, but also important for us to increase our participation in the big experiments.
From CNPM point of view, as I said, we're not a high energy physics center, but we are the unique center in Latin America that actually has an accelerator like Sirius and an infrastructure that allowed us to actually build this. So we are completely open to discuss. Marilda is here. She's taking care of now of our international collaborations. We are willing, of course, to discuss the role that CNPM could play in this arrangement. for example, when one comment, the people might not be happy, but for example, Ignacio showed, I don't know, almost 10 projects, 10 big projects. And we know this is difficult to actually have money for a significant participation. One thing is to have, and we should always have money for people to go there, get involved. But if you want, and this is from CNPq's perspective, if you want to build a big, let's say, part of the experiment, then I think one needs to choose among these 10, one or two. It's very difficult to find money to actually, from the instrumentation point of view, to build a big thing, not small little things, but a big thing. So that's a comment for common interaction.
Thank you. Rafael, Carlos, do you want to make any comments concerning this? Sorry.
If I could make a comment, a quick comment, it might involve Rafael Navarro. He might even have more information on that. One thing that would be, in my opinion, important for the Brazilian companies to be to get, let's say, more successful in getting, let's say, bids at CERN, is if they could show that they actually have the competence to build something. Because if I put myself on place of CERN, if a Brazilian company that never built anything for an accelerator participates, they might say, okay, how do I know? So this is something that FINEP, for example, could help by having a special kind of money to develop prototypes or kinds of projects that would show competence or develop capability. This could be done in partnership with universities, in partnership with us. It's a different kind of money. It's almost a pre-competitive kind of money for getting sort of the companies more like involved and know how actually what they're talking about. Okay, unless you want to sell paper clips and things like that.
Thank you. Rafael,
Ulysses,
Carlos.
yeah, so let me comment on that. I don't know if we have someone from FINEP at the audience, but of course I cannot talk for FINEP, but Ignacio, he was there as well, right, Ignacio? And they mentioned that they are studying, let's say, a potential call for, let's say, big science, right? So, and I think this is a topic that they are considering. So let's see, but potentially we have in a short term any news regarding that. I believe that Chile, as an associate member state, we can also combine efforts, right? Because there are some things that maybe we can do, let's say, industrially speaking, right? So maybe we can combine efforts. So more and more we are understanding the challenges to supply to CERN. Now it's a matter of understanding also the let's say the chain in Brazil, and if there's something that we can combine efforts with Chile, and I'm mentioning Chile because Chile will be allowed to sell to CERN, right? We can combine efforts. I think this is also a possibility. We know that Chile has some, let's say, potential raw materials and things that, as well as Brazil. So maybe you can combine efforts.
Rafael, thank you. Carlos, would you like to close with any comments on that question?
Yeah, from the perspective of government, I think that we of course we can support as governments CLAF, that's the international organization, regional organization responsible. I think that has the capability to interact with several research communities in Latin America to make more activities with CERN. So this is something that the governments can provide more support. And even in bilateral, I would like to mention that last August, August 2024, the Ministry of Science Technology of Brazil signed a memorandum of understanding of science, technology, innovation cooperation with Chile. And one of the priority areas was the collaboration for participation in CERN activities. So the governments also can support bilaterally how we can work together to improve regional coordination and work together in CERN. And just one explanation that I'd like to have, that Brazil and the government also supports the maintenance and operation through CNPq, and the provision of funds we are paying every year. So just to mention that it's not only we are paying for the membership, but you are also funding every year. It's not that we are not putting money for the experiment itself. So this is just to make it clear that the government is providing the necessary funds. If they don't have to pay debts for previous governments or previous commitments that specific actors made, something that we have discussed internally, but the funds are being provided. Thank you.
Thanks, Carlos. And thanks all the panelists for their expositions. The agenda is very dense, so we cannot take the discussion much longer, but thanks a lot. And I would like now to, applause.